Haruhi Suzumiya from East Junior High. First off, I'm not interested in ordinary people. But if any of you are aliens, time travelers, or espers, please come see me. That is all.
That's it. That's the plot of the show. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is special. It's a culturally significant show. It's one of my favorite series of all time. I've seen it at least 5 times now, and with each viewing, it feels just as fresh as the last. It changed anime as a whole at the time. But I don't want to talk about that. That's been well documented on YouTube for an anime this old, being released in 2006. And I've always struggled with trying to speak about this on my channel, because if you haven't seen this anime, I'd have loved for you to go into it as blind as possible and discover that it isn't some slice of life show about the quirky antics of high school students, despite what first glances might tell you. It's something more. Aliens, time travelers, espers, they all exist in this world. And at the center of it, Kyon, our cynical, sarcastic main protagonist, despite the show being named after Haruhi Suzumiya. He's a straight man. We see the world and its characters evolve through his eyes. We live through his internal monologue. We interact with the bizarre through him. No, interact is the wrong word. We're pulled into the bizarre with him. We're forced to. Gives us a real connection to everything as we again see it through his eyes. And then we transition to the daily life of a high school student with the already established abnormalities blending into that daily life and becoming less and less bizarre and more of the norm. Just like Kyon, we start getting used to the strange, and in turn, it becomes less so. He may be the main character, but the story is centered not only around him, but the character the series is named after, Haruhi Suzumiya. Haruhi quite literally stands at the forefront of this series. Her personality is commanding. Her presence dominates any room she's in. She's a character that cannot be ignored, and she's unapologetically honest with her intentions. What you see is what you get with a person like Haruhi. She is confident, she's loud, and has a nauseatingly magnetic personality that draws any and everyone to her, whether they want to or not. She's self-centered at first and a bit aggravated as she treats the world as if it revolves around her. Ironic given the fact that it does, leaving her feeling like a spoiled brat most of the time as she always gets what she wants, even if she has to manipulate and blackmail to do so. But ironically, it doesn't feel that malicious, with some obvious exceptions to this rule. Haruhi views her actions as an end that justifies a means, and that stems from a deep insecurity. She clings onto the pursuit of the supernatural because she's afraid of becoming bored, and on top of that, she fears that she will never be important, or rather her life would never be important. This all stems from an existential realization as a child that Haruhi Suzumiya, just like everyone else, is just one person in a sea of billions. She's a nobody, and her life will follow down a similar path to those before and all around her. A mundane, melancholic mess of mediocrity, only to eventually become a blur as she gets older. But that became a driving force to reshape her life in this vast world. Something else had to be out there, and she was determined to find it. The big twist of Haruhi is she's supposedly a powerful being that wishes things she wants into existence. In other words, a god. Whether or not you believe that is always up to interpretation, but this is the premise that the story presents and everything revolves around it. But the story isn't only about Haruhi and Kyon. There's other characters that make up the bulk of the main cast. Without them, the SOS Brigade doesn't exist. Haruhi Suzumiya doesn't exist. The world, the story, doesn't exist. There's Yuki Nagato, a truly fascinating character within this world that stands as a core pillar of the story with Kyon and Haruhi. Each character has a stereotype that they embody, and for the most part redefined and deconstruct as the story goes on. For Nagato, she plays the role of the quiet, emotionless character. She's the blank canvas, literally, with so much room to grow, and grow she does. She's an alien humanoid interface, or rather an alien supercomputer android created by the Data Integration
Thought entity that supervises this galaxy. I am a humanoid interface designed to make contact with organic life forms like you. Do you understand?
Yeah. that. Just like you would expect from a supercomputer, she operates on logic and can manipulate data with scary precision, to the point where she can manipulate reality. She's a walking, talking, breeding system admin of the universe. The great thing about Nagato is the immense development she goes through throughout the story, and like Haruhi, the attachment she grows to Kyon. This causes her to sometimes bend the rules of her original programming to make sure he, and I suppose the rest of the SOS Brigade, are safe. But mostly Kyon. She observes the world and everyone in her circle quietly, and only acts when necessary. Hell, she only ever really speaks when directly spoken to. Watching Yuki develop human-like emotions and make human-like decisions is heartwarming. It brings her character full circle, and she becomes more than an anime trope. But through her deliberate actions, we and Kyon can infer what's going on in that head of hers. If Haruhi embodies the idea of depression, boredom, and a sense of becoming something more, then Nagato encapsulates the idea of loneliness. Being a construct purely artificial, she is isolated from the world. Yuki does not need to sleep, eat, and she does not socialize with anyone until the SOS Brigade is formed, giving her the closest thing to a normal life, to a family. It's Nagato's only tangible connection to the real world that isn't something superficial like an apartment or a humanoid body. The other trope that Nagato embodies is the idea, or rather the dilemma, that's also prevalent in science fiction. Can a creation with the sole purpose of logic and reasoning develop emotion? Can it gain a soul? Can an android become human? In this case, the answer would be a resounding yes. What makes Nagato even more interesting outside of the ever-prevailing questions of what makes someone a human is the power that she wields and the restraint that she shows alongside it. Nagato is the most powerful being in the series. She can warp reality, manipulate time, and undo the most terrifying of events. She is, for a lack of a better term, all-powerful. If Haruhi is supposed to be God, then Nagato demonstrates what godlike power really is. Yet, she never abuses it. She uses it passively, sparingly, and lets the natural course of things play out, for the most part. She's responsible, reliable, resourceful, and puts the needs of others above herself, even after developing real emotions. Now, if Kyon is the balance, Haruhi the chaos, and Nagato the stillness within the two, then Itsuki Koizumi is the order, the containment. He preserves the status quo, and also the esper of the group. Koizumi on the surface is no short of perfect in every sense of the word. He's handsome, he's charming, he's quite friendly, polite, he says all the right things, does all the right things, or rather, says and does what he has to. The perfect persona is a mask that Koizumi wears, and it adds the mystery of him as a character. You never really know what he's really thinking or feeling. He's the one that puts forth the theory of Haruhi being a literal god. But just like every other character in this ensemble, his mask begins to slowly crack. Now, we never know what Koizumi is truly feeling at any given time. Like Nagato, he still keeps things mostly to himself. But what is so apparent is his jealousy of Kyon and his admiration, or rather, love for Haruhi. That love isn't just a theory, and we'll get to that later. As he spends more time with the brigade, and Kyon, that always on persona he puts up, slips up from time to time. You can say it's almost like he let his guard down. He almost becomes human, not on the same level as Nagato, but there's a sense of genuineness from Koizumi's perfect facade. He goes from someone very cryptic and untrustworthy to a friend, at least when it comes to Kyon, which is ironic because he himself harbors his jealousy and resentment towards Kyon, as he's the only one in the group that can get Haruhi to yield, for lack of a better term. Kyon, the normal one of the group, against Koizumi, a being that Haruhi literally wishes to be real. But despite this, Koizumi doesn't really change too much. He stays stagnant for the most part, and I suppose it's fitting due to his role as the keeper of the status quo. Things need to stay stagnant. As long as the world stays the same and the people in it continue to sail the metaphorical ship steady, Koizumi has done his job, and he's done it well. Now, on to the last member of the SOS Brigade, Mikuru Asahina, and she is quite complex. Deceptively complex. While the other characters have their traits spelled out for them through their constant actions or interactions in certain scenarios, Mikuru feels as though she lacks agency, and that's the point. To fully understand her, a little more digging is necessary to unearth the secrets hidden within her cutesy, timid, clumsy exterior. Mikuru is the time traveler of the series, and the reason why she lacks so much agency as a character on the surface is because she has to follow a steady path to keep the flow of time moving in one direction. It's a very important job, but it leaves her ultimately reactionary, as she only does what she has to via orders she receives from her bosses, one of which being her from the future. Mikuru is an extremely emotionally mature character who's very capable and serious as shown by her future self. This gives context clues to how controlled Mikuru is and how well she plays her part. Even if we discount her future self, some of her moments in the current time with Kyon also gives us a very good grasp of who she is. She feels like a tool because she is one, at least at first. She has no freedom, she can't say too much, she can't do too much, it's almost as if she's trapped, forever destined to one path forever with no say. It leaves Mikuru taking the brunt of Haruhi's abuse. She's a victim that can't fight back, and leaving Haruhi unchecked to flex her authority over her is a plot point that the series dives into and makes Haruhi very unlikable at times. She is someone who is objectified to get what Haruhi wants. Now, Haruhi objectifies herself as well, I will say that, but Mikuru has no say, no consent, and it's all due to obligation. Keeping the sacred timeline, well, sacred. Mikuru is a truly tragic character as she's trapped by destiny. She can't intervene, she can't change anything that is currently or will happen to her or the other members of the brigade, and she can't even talk about it with anyone. Kyon does spark a fighting spirit through her among other things, but she still isn't able to truly stand up for herself. But she always manages to keep her dignity somewhat intact. Mikuru is a critique on how some anime treats and views its female characters. In a series where the supernatural is real and the characters have near limitless power, Mikuru is firmly grounded in compliance and quiet suffering. Unlike Haruhi, a force of chaos, or Kyon, a calm that can ease the storm with pragmatism, Mikuru is a victim of structure, a victim of the status quo Koizumi protects. She almost feels even more alone than Nagato. As you can see, this series has characters that redefine, deconstruct, and criticize common tropes in and out of its medium, given the fact that the anime is an adaptation of a light novel. Even the simplest of characters are extremely layered in a world that feels completely real and grounded despite the abnormalities that are very much within them. I tend to offer a compliment within the media that I discuss on this channel. It feels real. This to me is very high praise I can give to any series, and no other series I've covered or will cover embodies that praise more so than the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. The characters genuinely feel like real people, and when the episode ends or the chapter finishes, I can see life continuing on without my fourth-dimensional eyes looming in the background. I am simply a passive observer into the lives of these characters. No, not characters, people, and this world. This is incredible praise. What truly grounds the extraordinary world is Kyon. He is the glue that sticks all together, and that's a double-edged sword for me, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Kyon is the normal to the bizarre, the human to the inhuman. He grounds Haruhi and punishes her bad behavior, striking a change in her, a chance to be better, to grow beyond your bad habits. He also captures her heart, being the reason why she continues to live in a world, to her, that's so plain. Reminds her that just because things are normal, it doesn't mean life has to be boring. He's the one that comes up with the idea of the club. He inspires the change in all the characters. He brings out the resentment in Koizumi, the quiet jealousy, the quiet human emotion. He inspires Mikuru to keep her head held high despite the circumstances she's in. And he lights a fire in her heart, one that she cannot act upon. And Nagato, he makes her feel human. She opens up more, becomes more than the sum of her parts, more than what she's built to be, to such an extreme that she literally changes the world to fit Kyon's needs as she quietly observes his supposed contempt and disdain for Haruhi's continuous antics and the life-altering situations he's forced in because of them. I say this is a double-edged sword because without Kyon, this group falls apart. Sure, they'll all be there for Haruhi, but they'll be a shell of what they are now. No real human connection, no real camaraderie. Without Kyon, this is not a friend group, as Koizumi, Mikuru, and Nagato do not interact with each other one-on-one, and I can't see them doing so either. It's a thought that has always made me sad, that these people are not real friends without Kyon. Nogoru Tanagawa is a phenomenal storyteller that understands the creative art of storytelling in and out. His writing is smart and it makes you feel smart for catching on to what he's trying to convey. He is truly a visionary and a master of his craft. Kyoto Animation is just as legendary, being responsible for the transition into the format of anime, truly understanding its source material and adapting it fantastically. And on the topic of adaptation, let's talk a little bit about The Endless Eight. As a fan of this series or even an anime watcher at the time, you've heard the legend of The Endless Eight. 8 episodes recounting the same plot, leaving the viewer with an agonizing sense of deja vu. Endless Eight is controversial and rightfully so, but within its controversy is hidden genius, being adapted from its light novel roots, simply being the same chapter retold twice up until the very end. Kyoto Animation decided to do the unthinkable and take the 2-chapter structure and turn it into, as the name would suggest, 8 whole episodes in an already short 14-episode second season. And despite that, each episode had better animation than the last. It's so easy, especially with how modern adaptations are handled and the overworking of animators in the industry, to cut as many corners as possible to save as much money as possible. But this wasn't done here. 8 episodes all recounting the same plot with consistently good animation, with every episode being vastly different from the last with its color grading, cinematography, and animation every time, with little changes to the dialogue that leaves the viewer with that sense of deja vu. Early, I said that we see the story through Kyon's eyes, no one else's, and while this is still true here, there's a catch. No, each episode isn't shot from a different character's perspective. We still see things through Kyon's eyes, but this arc takes the idea of living through the characters to a meta-contextual level. We are trapped in a time loop, forced to repeat the same day a number of times. 8 for us, the audience, but unlike Kyon, our memories aren't reset after each day goes by. We live the same day 8 nauseatingly exhausting times, and keep our memory of it each time. You know who else does that? Yuki Nagato. Unlike everyone who has their memories erased and only has a faint sense of deja vu every time they relive this event, Nagato has to live the same day over and over and over again with all of her memories intact. Not once, not twice, but over
15,532 times so far.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Nagato. This was so genius. We are firmly put in the shoes of Nagato while still keeping the perspective centered around Kyon, with a genius way of telling a time loop story. And while I would have preferred The Endless Eight be a movie, on the account that this would be the last season of the main series' story adaptation, I'm still happy with what The Endless Eight is and what it has become. And it's always a treat showing the series to someone new and seeing their immediate reaction as time goes on. I couldn't imagine how this must have felt back in the day watching this air week to week. But Endless Eight aside, I'd be remiss not to speak about the masterpiece that is the Disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. There's so many video essays that dive into this film, and I could yap on about how great it is, but I'll only talk about how it impacts Kyon and what it does for him as a person within the overall story. First things first. This was my introduction to the Haruhi Suzumiya series. I'd seen Haruhi around before, but mostly ignored it. At the time, it looked like a girly anime, and I was 14, so cut me some slack. But one night, at the very reasonable hour of 4 AM with nothing to do and no chance to sleep, I stumbled across it thanks to a YouTube upload. Yeah, I'm really showing my age with that one. The upload changed my life. Not to be dramatic, of course. It was the first time I truly learned not to judge a book by its cover. I've never seen anything like it. Something firing on all cylinders, creatively, emotionally, and thematically. It blew me away. To this day, it's a film I make a point to revisit every December. But enough of the history lesson. This film once again centers around Kyon, but this time there's a quiet tension hanging over everything. On the morning of December 18th, Kyon wakes up to a world that irrevocably changed. The reality he knew is gone. To call it a shell of its former self would be an understatement. No time travelers, no espers, no aliens, and most importantly, no Haruhi Suzumiya. You see, Nagato had been silently observing Kyon, watching him complain, resist, and recoil from the supernatural chaos that had taken over his life. Chaos all rooted in one person, Haruhi. So she makes a decision. She alters reality herself, creating a world where Kyon seemingly gets what he always claimed he wants: normalcy. In this new reality, Mikuru Asahina is just a shy, unremarkable girl. Yuki Nagato is a soft-spoken, anxiety-ridden introvert who spends her time alone in the club room. Itsuki Koizumi is a regular high school student hopelessly in love with a girl who in this world doesn't even attend the same school. Haruhi Suzumiya. And her, she's no longer that vibrant storm chasing the unknown. She's become cynical, no nonsense, and disillusioned, having long abandoned her search for anything beyond the mundane. Just another cog in the machine. The kicker? They're not friends. In this version of the world, they don't even know each other. Haruhi and Koizumi don't go to North High. Mikuru and Nagato have never met Kyon, and yet Kyon remembers everything. As the story unfolds, we see Kyon clinging desperately to the life he once had, the life he spent so much time mocking for 2 seasons straight. Kyon played the role of the passive, cynical narrator, too proud to admit how much the bizarre and the supernatural and the absurd actually meant to him. Always claiming to want normalcy, always pretending it was all just a hassle. But here, for the first time, Kyon isn't reacting to the plot. He's driving it. He stops being the observer and becomes the instigator. He's forced into an inner reckoning, confronting the possibility that all his grumbling and sarcasm wasn't just directed at the world, but at himself. A facade to protect the version of himself that deep down never stopped believing in wonder. Because why wouldn't it be? Kyon had gotten everything he once longed for as a child, just like Haruhi. In that world, the abnormal became the norm, the strange became the standard, and the extraordinary became somehow comforting. There's no longer a world where those things don't exist, not for Kyon. They've become inseparable from his reality, and that's what makes this film beautiful. It isn't just about restoring a strange world, it's about a boy who finally admits that he loves it. And by the end of it all, when the plot is all wrapped up in Kyon has returned to the world he knows so much, everyone was beside him, waiting anxiously for his return. To them, Kyon had fallen down a flight of stairs and been unconscious for some time, but Nagato and Kyon, they know the truth. And it just shows the love and utter respect every member of the SOS Brigade have for our cynical narrator. None more so than Yuki Nagato, who granted his wish, and Haruhi Suzumiya, who refused to leave the hospital room he resides in. And that, folks, is the end of our anime's story. At least, as far as our main timeline goes. The Haruhi Suzumiya universe doesn't exactly stop here though. There's a few spin-offs, most notably the disappearance of Nagato Yuki-chan. It's not so much a what if Kyon had stayed in that altered world, but more a deeper look into the world that he briefly stepped into. The series takes its time with the characters, especially Koizumi and Mikuru, giving them space to grow outside of the rigid roles they were confined to in the original. But more than anything, it quietly reinforces that the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya is something special, not just because of its supernatural elements, but because of the world itself and the characters, or rather the people, real complex people who live within it. Honestly, it's the closest thing to what I consider a perfect piece of media. Earlier I said I was worried that these characters wouldn't be friends when it's all said and done. But looking back at everything, I think when the dust settles and the SOS Brigade graduates, they'll be just fine. This is Toki. This has been Beyond Animation, and I'll see you in the next one.
I guess I always knew those things were bogus, I just didn't want to admit it. All I ever wanted was for an alien, time traveler, ghost, monster, esper, evil syndicate, or the hero that fought him to just appear and say, hey! Unfortunately, reality is a hard road indeed.